Welcome to Tuesday, the 12th day of April, 2022. Your day weather podcast being brought to you by Cowboy State Daily, Wyoming's news authority. Check them out at cowboystatedaily.com or check them out on their Facebook page. Well, yesterday we talked about a strong Pacific front along the coast of Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. Well, it arrived overnight and into the morning hours in many areas. Very cold and windy conditions. We're really going to be feeling more like winter across the region. We don't have any major deviation in terms of the storm track that we talked about yesterday. Winter storm and at times blizzard conditions headed to North Dakota, parts of southeastern and southern Montana, far northern Wyoming and northern areas of South Dakota. Those are the areas with the highest impacts, but we've already in other areas saw some heavy snow showers overnight, a couple of thunderstorms. Now we're getting strong winds and temperatures are falling. Road closures and advisories for poor travel are already in effect for many parts of Montana, Wyoming, and surrounding states. So hazardous travel and livestock conditions today, tonight, and into early on Wednesday. It is going to be very cold, folks. Very cold for most everybody, at least compared to averages, through the end of the week. This will be especially true for you folks up north, maybe a little more moderate with temperatures across the central and southern Rockies, but it is just not going to be nice. There's no way to describe it other than it's just not going to be nice. Now, there will be a very modest temperature increase over the weekend, but still cool relative to averages. And we do see a wave coming through that will produce more precipitation in the Pacific Northwest and the central and northern Rockies over the weekend. And any moisture we get is a bonus, and that's good. This is going to be especially true in the mountain areas. We see another system the middle of next week, stronger system by the weekend of April 23rd. So, as you'd expect this time of year, the weather is going to be staying busy. The satellite photo really showing the Pacific cold front very well. This area of cloudiness right here, and then the brighter clouds just to the east of that boundary I drew is where the heavier precipitation was overnight and early this morning. Heavy snow in many of these areas, especially in the mountains. We had a little bit of thunderstorm activity and cold air is rushing in behind it. Now this swirl of clouds will get itself better organized up here and will become a comma-shaped cloud wrapping back into this area more organized during the course of the day tomorrow. Now I want to show you something, and this is a classic example of downsloping. You see what looks like a razor's edge of clouds here to nothing? So that little city lights right there, that's Cheyenne. Here's the Front Range of Colorado from Denver, Fort Collins, Colorado Springs. Those bright areas are indeed city lights. But notice how the clouds just stop right at the mountains. That's because winds are coming downhill or downslope. So the southeastern parts of Wyoming, the Panhandle, Nebraska, and the Front Range of Colorado really getting downslope, which basically means just a few showers and a lot of wind. But you go up into this area here, you go up into here and here. That's where the storm is going to bring upslope conditions over the next 48 hours. Here's a shot along Interstate 80 this morning between Rollins and Laramie. This is what it looks like on many roads and highways where that Pacific front is moving on through. Take a look at the 500 millibar chart. The main upper level low by noon today will be over northwestern Wyoming. The frontal boundary will be marching across the plains. And then tomorrow, here we go. That storm really gets well organized. You can see it closing off over south central areas of North Dakota. That's going to wrap the heavy snow back into here in the wind, but also drive in a big wedge of very cold air in behind it. And notice the jet stream winds remain very strong into the Pacific Northwest. And this is going to be a pipeline of unstable moist air continuing to move into the Mountain West and the Pacific Northwest, even as the main storm moves out. Now that is a good pattern to keep the snow going in the mountains to help our snowpack. So while this is going to be a big chunk of snow falling in the mountains, in fact, many snowpack sensors, at least the snowpack sensors I took a look at in Wyoming, many of them were well over a half inch. One area in the Snowy Range was approaching an inch of water, as well as in the Sierra Madres west of encampment. So a nice boost of snow, especially in the North Platte drainage and the South Platte drainage, but some significant snow in the Bighorns and the Wind River Mountains, and the other major mountain west is going to see some good snow out of this, not only today, but for multiple days. By noon Thursday, The storm is up into the arrowhead of Minnesota. We just have this very elongated, broad area of low pressure here with another low center here. And what that'll do, that's going to feed more rain and snow into Washington, Oregon, and British Columbia, as well as the northern Sierras of California. That's all good news. Yes, this is miserable weather, but it is bringing the mountains some snow, which we need. This is the precipitation forecast through Thursday morning, and you can see the axis of heavier snow right here, about where we showed it to you yesterday. Notice once you get south of I-90 here, this is that wedge I talked about, the downslope wedge. This is where the wind's coming off the Black Hills, off the Bighorns, off the Front Range of Colorado and Wyoming. You get, unfortunately, a dry patch, and you get a lot of wind there. So long-suffering folks in this area here, while the good moisture stays up there. Notice another good slug of water coming into the Pacific Northwest. And good patches of moisture here in the mountains of Colorado. Wasatch will pick up a little bit more, as well as around eastern Idaho and western Wyoming. For the next several days, there's just going to be a funnel of moisture into the Tetons and the mountains of Idaho and southwestern Montana as well. Focusing in a little bit closer, you can really see that I-90 being that dividing line there, and then the downslope thing along south and east of I-25. Snowfall, you can see the heavier pink areas here. Going to get really nasty up here in North Dakota and eastern areas of Montana in particular. Look at these temperatures. Now, these are forecasted temperatures relative to the 30-year averages. So the coldest air relative to average will be over Montana, the western Dakotas, central and northern Wyoming. But look at this. It's all the way down to the Texas Panhandle. The entire western United States for the middle of April, very cold, and that is Wednesday. Look at these wind chills. These are wind chills by tomorrow morning. So we're looking at sub-zero wind chills. This is why we've been harping on the stressful situation for young and weak livestock, even in areas that aren't getting a lot of snow. Going to have to go through some very cold wind chills with this system. These are temperatures relative to average by Thursday. There's a little moderation down here, but look at this swath of cold, the green all the way back into California and the Pacific Northwest. And here are the winds again. We talked about strong winds coming in on the back side of the low, across the southern Rockies, across New Mexico, across the Great Basin, Utah, and the southern California, and then the strong winds up here on the plains on the backside of the system. There's really nothing nice about this weather at all, is there? Now, as we get into the weekend, the low goes into the upper Great Lakes, goes up into southeast Canada, begins to dissipate, begins to wear itself out there. And what will happen is that we will have a little wave. This little wave right here is a little area of low pressure that's going to come in late Saturday and Sunday. And what this will do in this area right here, this time of year, these little waves don't look like much. But as you get into April and May and into early June, these little short waves coming off the Pacific Northwest will produce rain showers and thunderstorms on the plains. They'll produce wet snow in the mountains. It's just a good way to keep feeding moisture into the area. And this is what it looks like. So this is from early next week and this weekend. So you can see there's going to be another good slug of moisture in the Pacific Northwest, all the way south into central California, and then some shower activity spreading on out. These showers associated with these waves coming through like this. So we may very well over Easter weekend get into a little bit of rain and snow shower and thunderstorm activity on the plains and a little more snow in the mountains, and that's going to keep our temperatures cool. Now, by the middle part of next week, there's going to be another wave coming in around Tuesday and Wednesday. High pressure builds in late next week around Thursday and Friday for a brief warm-up. But you see this guy right here? Well, this is likely going to be a trough of low pressure that swings into the Rockies and the Great Basin states by the weekend of the 23rd. So the weather pattern is going to stay active as the water, the sea surface temperatures up here along the Gulf of Alaskan coast in this zone here are pretty cold, and so that's going to continue to cause weather systems to form up here and come through the Intermountain West. The trick is we need to get one of these to slow down enough to bring heavier precipitation to this area right here, which really needs it the most. Now, a lot of people need moisture, but this is an area of concern as we go through the rest of April and stare down May. Have yourself a good day despite all of that nastiness I just talked about. We'll see you tomorrow.